It is Tuesday, December 10th, and it is day number 16 of the MoVE Fitness Challenge. Today, we're going to use 10 transition zones or transformational zones. So, you may be wondering what a transformational zone or transition zone, or what I refer to sometimes as a TZ zone, is. Alright, so first, let me give credit where credit is due, and that's to the Gray Institute. That is their terminology. They've kind of come up with those terms and gave me great understanding to what that is. So I can't take credit for that, but I have learned from them, and so we're going to try to use a little bit of their nomenclature in this and kind of exactly what that means. And I'll try to explain it very simple here, but transformation or a transition zone, as best I know it, would be our body's ability to transform energy from one point to another. So we're going to load and we're going to unload our bodies, okay? So in function, and when we move and act and play and run and do anything in life, we have these different points of transformation where we load our bodies at certain levels, at certain reaches, at different points. And so what we're going to try to do is break down, there's kind of 7 points and that we use. And so whether it's a sport, whatever we're doing, we have these different points of transformation, and it's kind of how the body is loaded and then how it unloads. So it's not all the same. It's not, for instance, we don't hold and do one thing in one plane of motion at one spot every single time. That would be probably keeping our envelope of function very, very small. And what we want to do is try to increase that sphere and improve upon all the different things that our bodies can do. And this is a big one of the big part and big one of those things that we can do. Okay, so let's first start at position 1, the ground. Okay. Number 2, we'd look at the ankle. We'd go up to the knee, we'd go up to the waist, we'd go up kind of the chest height, all right, go up to the shoulder, and then we go overhead. So those would be our 7 kind of points of transformation. Obviously, you can go in between those areas as well, are different points, and you can start to realize now as different angulations and different reaches, then different planes of motion, that number kind of multiplies itself quite a few times. So there's a lot of variation, but that's human life, that's function, okay? So there's your little lesson for today. Now that we have those 7 positions, I'm going to show you in a lateral lunge and a lateral bound, all right, some different points of transformation and kind of what that would look like. So first thing I'm going to use is a lateral lunge, and I'm just going to lunge out, and I'll lunge opposite every time, just to kind of show you what both sides will look like. We'll only count 1 though. So I'm going to show you 5 different points of transformation, and I'm going to use my little friend the Viper here, all right, to show you how I go through those different points of transformation. And now they're very important, all right, when you're using these, to use them and to kind of say them in the right order, because it's what the dumbbell or what the implement, in this case the Viper, is going to be doing. We've got to know where it starts, where it finishes, and where at that point of transformation, where it ends. Okay, so the first ones we're going to use today, I'm going to start, it's going to say ground to shoulder. So in a lateral lunge, I've got a hold of my Viper, and I'm going to take it from ground to shoulder. But what's important to know is when I make my lunge, I'm going to go to the ground. When I come back home, I'm going to go to the shoulder. So I'm going to start at the shoulder because that's where I'm going to end. So start with my lateral lunge, I'm going to take it out ground, I'm going to come up shoulder. Then I will switch legs, go to the other side. So my first transition zone is ground to shoulder. And I'm not going to do anything other with my reach than just straight in front of my leg. We can do a lot of other things, different angulations, but not today. So that's the first one, ground to shoulder. Number 2 is we're going to go from shoulder, okay, to overhead. So I got to start at overhead now, and I'm going to go out. I'm going to come down shoulder, overhead, and I'll go other side. All right, so my next one, I'm going to go chest to ground, okay? So I got to know that right now it's pretty important that I start right here. All right, I'm going to come up to my chest as I lunge out. All right, next one, shoulder or overhead to shoulder. So I got to start at my shoulder, go out overhead, come back shoulder, and repeat. It's number 4. Okay, and number 5, I'm going to go shoulder to ankle. So I got to start at the ankle, I got to go up to the shoulder, back down to the ankle, and repeat. So those are the first 5 with lateral lunges. So now we got 5 more because it's the 10th today, but now I'm going to use a bound. A bound, real simple, is bounding from one foot to the other. And I'm going to continue, I'm going to land back on the original foot. So I'm going to exchange on that. I'll call this home. So I'll always use my motion out, my point of transformation out, and then I'll come back home. And I'll always repeat that. So that way I can kind of keep things even on both sides. So my first one here is I'm going to go from ankle to shoulder. So I know I'm going to start my shoulder, I'm going to bound out, go into ankle, come back shoulder. I'll switch feet once I've got it balanced, and then I'll go to that side. So number 6 is ankle to shoulder. Start on shoulder, go down ankle, back shoulder, switch it, ankle, shoulder. All right, next one. I'm going to go knee to shoulder. So I know I'm going to go out to knee. This time, a little bit different, loads the body differently. So here I go with a bound to knee. Not able to load the hip as much, changes up what I'm doing. Overhead to chest. I got to bring it down in this awkward little chest position. Okay, and I got to drive it up overhead. So I'm going to bound out, overhead, back to my chest. All right, next one, I'm going to go waist to overhead. So as I jump out, I got to transition to my waist. So I got to start it overhead. Going to be a little different as I'm bringing it down to my waist. All right, and the last one I'm going to use is going to go from knee to ground. So I got to start here. Going to be real goofy on one leg. Okay, I'm going to bound out, go up to my knee. And I'll switch that. Ground, knee. Now, I use some pretty odd combinations. You can change. It doesn't even have to move. So you've got all those different ones you can play with, but what really is what you want to do is try to play with those and input them for what your purpose or what your goal is. So if you were someone maybe in hockey or someone rotationally, I'd probably want to load up in a rotation, loading the hip and the trunk at a point of transformation where maybe I go a little bit lower. Maybe a tennis player is going to cross over at about chest height, but they also will probably go overhead for serving. Okay? So you can use multiple exercises, but use the points of transformation for what your purpose is. Or maybe if you're just into general fitness, maybe you have to look at and see, what's your training look like? What does your life look like? And maybe you adapt it to that, whatever you do. Because sometimes, if you drop something and you gotta go reach and take it from here back to up here where you gotta put something back, those are points of transformation. Those are how our bodies work. That's function. Okay? So we learned a lot today, but your challenge is those 10 points of transformation, or you create 10 from ground, ankle, knee, waist, chest, shoulder, and overhead. All those combinations, you use it, play with it, have some fun, integrate it, but try those points of transformation in your exercises. Good luck.